I'm out early this morning trying to do some work in the gardens before the heat gets in here. I probably won't be through before the heat gets here, but I'm going to try. I've got some flowers I want to plant today. Some of the ones are the ones that I got from Satterfield's last week when Matt and Katie and I went over to get Tom Orr's bear grease. If you missed that video, you can go back and watch it. So I want to get those planted. Then also some very kind people sent us some flowers, some iris bulbs, and then also Dear Sweet Lady sent some to Granny. So I'm going to go down at Granny's and actually plant some of the iris and then the lily of the valley. This is the area where we have our parsnips and 2 rows of carrots. You can see they're doing pretty good. Well, the tops look pretty good. I'm not sure about the actual part we're going to eat. Hopefully though, even though it's been dry, hopefully they're making. But this row kind of in between the carrots here, I planted some dill and some flowers and some basil there several weeks ago. And as you can see, it's not really done any good. There's a lot of weeds there. The dill did come up in a place or two, but I think I'm going to clean up all those weeds first, and then I'm going to plant some of the flowers, some of those sunflowers that I got from Betty and Pat, and then maybe I will sow some more seed. And then this time maybe I can keep it moist enough even if it doesn't rain. I just kind of forgot that I planted these down here, and I have been watering, but I mostly concentrated on the stuff I'd watered in the back of the house and not these. And then I suddenly remembered, and I tried to water them then, but I think it was just too late. It's just been so dry. But that's where I'm going to start, is right here. So this is the flowers that I got from Satterfield's, and some of them are perennials, so I wouldn't want to put those right here because we'll till this up. This is where we always plant garden stuff. But I am going to get maybe those marigolds and then maybe the sunflowers and plant them along with some other seeds. I think I'm going to save the petunias to put in the back. The grow bag that I have petunias in, there's room for one more, so I think I'll put that purple one back there. And I'm definitely going to put the yarrow back there in my garden that gets so much sunshine that it's hard to grow anything in it basically. But yarrow seems to do really good in it, and that's just a beautiful color. So I'm gonna take that back in the back. I don't have any like that, and I think it'll look nice with the kind of creamy yellow that I do have growing back there. I think I'm going to put some calendula right here in the front, and then maybe also some bachelor buttons. Then I brought more dill. I'll put it back out there with the sunflowers. And somehow my cilantro never did come up, so I'm going to put some cilantro down here too. I didn't take my gloves off to get my seeds out of the dill and the cilantro, and I really made a mess of them, so I decided I better. Of course, you can see where I've done that before. There's already dirt all over these too. Well, there's barely any calendula left in this pack, so. plant all of that one. Here's the two little dill plants that did survive the first time that I planted the things. I guess they got enough moisture to actually germinate. I think I'm going to go and get some mulch and put all over these. Since it has been so dry, the mulch will help some, especially if I can remember to water this little row. And the mulch will really help retain that moisture. So I think I'm going to go do that before I move to my next project. I still haven't managed to clean out my major flower bed here, but look how beautiful it is, even amidst all the chaos that's going on, all the weeds. The phlox is just beginning to bloom, that wild phlox. I wish you could be here to smell it. It smells amazing. I've got the tall bee balm over there. The bees are just working it like crazy. And it may be hard to see on camera, but there's different varying shades of the phlox, even though it's growing right here beside each other. There's pink, there's like a lavender, there's like a hot pink. Really beautiful, even if it is a mess. So this is the bed where I'm going to put some of the other flowers. I've really struggled with this bed. I want it to be really beautiful. It is beautiful, but I really want it to just be full of flowers. My problem is the evening sun just bakes this bed, and then it reflects against the house and hits back into the bed, and it's just hard to get some things. I should say it's hard to get the things I want to grow in it. It's not hard to get. You see back there in the back, that's the Japanese anemone. And then also the lamb's ear, they're doing fantastic. The yarrow does fantastic. I've cut it back because it got so leggy, but it does really good. So instead of fighting it with everything else, of course the irises do good in it too. I need to just accept it and go with what is telling me that it'll do good. But this year I've planted, I planted some moss roses. They look okay. They're not really thriving, but they look okay. I've planted that was a blanket flower that Corey got me for Mother's Day. It's not doing very good at all. One of my sunflowers, my dwarf sunflowers, come up. It's about to bloom. The lantana and the vinca, they're kind of holding their own, but not really thriving, if you know, not really doing much. The little marigolds I planted, I finally thought, well, I'll plant marigolds, surely they'll come up. And they have, but they're not really thriving either. There's a few calendula, a few cosmos, and a few zinnias, but again, they're not really thriving. Now, it could be too, though, that we've just been extremely dry, unusually dry for us. We're usually not that dry. And I have watered this bed, though. I have made an effort to actually keep it watered. Katie's poppies did excellent there, though, and I know they're going to reseed themselves, so next year they'll definitely be poppies there. I'm going to plant this other color of yarrow in this bed. So pretty, since the yarrow does so well for me there. This is a beautiful red coneflower. That's a perennial, but I'm afraid to plant it there. It may be too hot, so I'm going to put it in another bed. And then I might go ahead and put the marigolds there. I think that would be really pretty, and they can stand the hot heat. This is where I put the petunias, the first petunias that I bought from Betty and Pat back in earlier in the spring. You can see the cucumber here is about to overtake them, and they've not done as good right here. I think it's because they're shaded by this, as they did, whoops, I just broke that big leaf off, as they did last year when they were kind of opposite from where they're at right now. So I don't know if I should move them, or maybe I should just make sure the cucumbers don't overtake them like they have been. I can't tell you how happy I am, though, to look at my cucumbers and not see the squash bugs all over them. Even by saying that, I'm probably jinxing myself and they'll come back. But so far, the pepper spray that I've been using really seems to have done the trick. I'm going to scoot these over. I've tried to keep them watered too. Although when I just watered them last night, but when I dig down in there with my hand, I can see how dry it is. I need to water them even more. But I'm going to put this one right here. If they do start blooming, the purple with the pink will be really lovely and help fill it out in here. I might should move it though. I should move it a little bit. Maybe I will. Now that I'm decided, I guess I will if I can pull it over. Well, it's not as bad as I thought. In its place, I'm going to set that. I don't know if it'll sit there. There's kind of a hump. I'll have to move it. But strawberry mint, it come from Pat and Betty too. Oh, it's good, and it's blooming right now. It's really, really pretty. And it actually, I got it last year. Still need to put some more dirt under one corner or something. There, that's better. I got it last year, and it actually overwintered in this pot. I did kind of have it sheltered near the greenhouse, not in the greenhouse. But it's got pretty little blooms right now. I've not really been in love with this part of the garden this year like I was last year. So maybe I moved that big thing of petunias over to this side. I've got some dahlias, that little small pot in front. That big tall thing is the sweet plant that Quincy talked me into getting, that's stevia. And then I've got some basil, some calendula that's about to start blooming in the largest pot on the end. And then that little pot in the front that's kind of gold turquoise looking, that's got nasturtiums in it. They're not doing that great, but they're hanging on. But I think that I'm going to put the petunia that I got from Betty and Pat this time, that purple ruffledy one, I'm going to put it right in front of the sweet plant, as Quincy calls it, because I planted a alyssum in that, and it all come up and was looking like it was really going to do good until it just all died. I think probably it just got too dry, or maybe it didn't like the sunshine. But I'm going to put that petunia right there. On this side of the greenhouse door, I just have these 3 small pots, not as much as what I had last year. In this first one, the one with the most growth, that's calendula and nasturtiums, and they're looking great. In that second one, I planted several things, but the only thing that come up is that one right there. I think that's a gazania. So hopefully I'll get to see it bloom if it continues. And then the one closest to the greenhouse door, that is candy tuft. So it's doing pretty good. I have made sure to water all of these. That's why they're hanging on. I'm so glad I stepped back here to notice those pots and move them around. You can see we didn't manage to plant anything right here behind the greenhouse where we have for the past 2 years. But the reason I'm glad I stepped back here is my mullein is blooming. Isn't that great? I didn't even know that the stalk had come up and it had bloomed like that. I've been out in the backyard. I've just not took a peek back here. But I'm so happy about that. That is great. And I hope it spreads. Maybe it would just take over this little area. That would be okay with me. So what I've got left, now that I got all that done, is I've got this wonderful red coneflower. I've got a salvia. And then I've got the creeping thyme. I'm going to put the thyme in between the steps that Matt built to go up to our raised beds. I'm going to try to separate it out and plant it in those. And I ran inside and asked Katie. I knew she thought that she would say it was okay, but I wanted to ask. I'm going to put these 2 in her poppy bed that she made last year. Some of her poppies come up, but not all of them did. And I've already put one of the coneflowers that I accidentally pulled up from our herb bed, from one of our herb beds in there. So she said that would be fine. So I'm going to put those 2 in it, and then work on the creeping thyme, and then I'll be ready to head down to Granny's. Granny come out with me to oversee, so we put the lily of the valley right here with her hydrangea and her ferns. I think that'll be really nice. It's a good spot for it. It stays pretty shady right here. My last chore after coming back from Granny's is to plant these irises. Someone sent me the irises. They're from Random Oaky Farms, Davis, Oklahoma. Thank you if you're the one that sent them. Actually, it had Katie's name on the box, so we didn't know if they sent them to Katie or if they sent them to me. But I'm going to plant them for me and Katie. And I'm going to plant them right here in front of, these are some other iris, different kind of iris. They've already finished blooming this year, but I'm going to plant them right in front of them right here in the front. I planted some flower seeds here, but again, it's been so dry they didn't come up. But I'm going to plant the irises here, and I'll just be sure to water them. I don't know what color they'll be or anything, but I love all irises, and Katie does too. So either way, we'll be very happy to have them. Just behind where I'm going to plant the irises, there's just the bank, goes down the bank on down to Corey and Austin's house, but you can see the wild phlox has really took over this area too. It's just lovely, and the smell is just amazing. Didn't take but just a minute to plant them. Irises generally like to have part of their little tuber there left out of the dirt, so you don't have to plant them too deep. However, I have found over the years, irises like this kind of iris are just pretty much indestructible. And a lot of times if I did plant them too deep, I would notice that they would pull themselves up out of the dirt if they thrived, if they lived, then they would kind of handle that part on their own. I can't wait to see what color these are. I'm glad to get my last chore done, those irises. It's getting rather warm out here. I have really enjoyed myself today, though. I'm so glad I started early in the morning. Being outside, working in the garden is just one of my all-time favorite things to do. But it is uncomfortable when it gets warm, so I'm glad I started early today. And I'm excited that I got everything done. Wonderful to get those plants in the ground that I got from Betty and Pat. I'm excited about the seeds that I sowed. Excited about the things that folks have sent us. Thank you so much for those. One way I feel kind of silly planting it all because we are so dry, But that's part of being a gardener, is this like eternal hope that lives in your heart, that you're always hopeful that the weather will cooperate, that the pest will stay away, that you'll have beautiful blooms or a beautiful harvest if it's vegetables that you're growing. If you're a gardener, you can certainly identify with all that. While I was planting the irises down there, I couldn't resist stopping at the blueberry bush, and I picked me a little handful of blueberries. I'll take them in and eat them here in a minute. That blueberry bush I love all my blueberry bushes, but that one really has fond memories for me. Matt got me that blueberry bush when we were both still working at Tri-County at the college, Tri-County Community College. And I had just started working in marketing at that time. When I was in the marketing department, there was maybe I had 2 or 3 different desks that I sat at. I finally got an office all my own. That was great. But at this time, I was kind of sitting in an open area where people would just come in. And I was sitting there one day, and there was a counter up above, like I was behind, sitting down at a desk, but a counter there above me. And he come in, and I heard somebody come in, but I wasn't paying attention. I was busy doing whatever I was doing, and then set something down. Of course, then I look up, and it was Matt, and it was that blueberry bush. And he'd went across the road there at Peachtree Produce and bought it from Corey. And I don't remember now if maybe it was Mother's Day, because that would have been, early in the year when he would buy something like that. So maybe that was it, or maybe he just wanted to surprise me. Anyway, but he bought that blueberry bush, and I really like it. It was much earlier, gets ripe earlier than most of ours that are down further, going down the driveway. They are a very late bearing blueberry, so a lot of them won't get ripe until end of July, 1st of August. So I love it because of that, because it gets ripe sooner, but mostly because it has those sweet memories of Matt thinking about me while he was at work. I'm a very sentimental person. If you've watched my videos, you already realize that. I've got a story about pretty much everything from my kitchen utensils to the plants in my yard. So that's something I really love. Even these annuals that I got from Betty and Pat and little Quincy, all year I'll think about them. If the ones that are thriving, the ones I got on the first trip, I look at them and I think about Quincy and I think about Pat and Betty. Some of the ones I bought today, that I planted today, that I bought this past week, were perennials. So hopefully they'll come back and, even 5 years down the road, I'll be telling someone, you know, I got that from Betty and Pat and Little Quincy. Little Quincy convinced me to buy that. So I love having those connections. And of course now with the lily of the valley that I planted for Granny, I've got that connection. Sweet lady that sent those to her. And even the irises, I'm not sure who sent them, but I'll know that somebody thought about me and Katie and wanted us to have them. And maybe you'll tell me if you're watching, maybe you'll tell me who you are, but I'll have that connection. I think that's really special. And just one more thing that makes me love gardening. Sometimes it's not those connections to the certain plants like that maybe. Maybe it's just memories of being in the garden with your mother, with your father, with your children. You know, maybe a friend that taught you about gardening or something like that. I have some of my flowers up in the front. Let's see, one of you told me what they were. Evening primrose, I think. Nancy Simpson called them sundrops. She's the one that gave them to me. I used to work with her in her yard, and she's no longer in this old world. So when I see them, I think about Nancy. She was a wonderful poet and a dear friend. I hope you've enjoyed being with me today. I'm going to go in and enjoy my blueberries and see if I can find something cold to drink. I'm always glad when you stop by to help me celebrate Appalachia.